coalition, yes, in my backyard, notoriously spicy, but this is one that we can bring quite a lot of passion to. Advocates for housing have long known that we need zoning, we need permitting reforms, we need all of those things, and we also need to turn on the lights. We have to confront the realities that are presented by challenges from PG&E. There are a lot of reasons often given to slow things down, but there is no justification for the kinds of delays we see from PG&E. There is just no reason for projects, built housing that is waiting to house human beings to sit vacant, waiting for a bureaucracy to take action. There is no justification for it. And we are here today with a broad and diverse coalition of people who are saying enough is enough. It is time to take action. The excuses are boring, and we need you to take action. I'm joined by Corey of the Housing Action Coalition, notoriously a little bit less spicy, but let's see if he can bring the fire.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. And good morning, everybody. Corey Smith, Housing Action Coalition. I actually want to share that today is Laura's first day back from maternity leave. And like so many other young parents, here in this city who are struggling and trying to figure out how to make ends meet. It's not just personal and professional, so it's all tied together. Wonderful to see you. Welcome back, and happy to be here with you. We stand here. Everybody you're looking at up here today is part of what we're calling the Fair California Coalition. Along with our elected leaders, we are united in our call to have PG&E be held accountable for their role in hindering our state's ability to fight our housing crisis. And Fair California represents not only housing advocates, but ratepayer advocates, small business leaders, seniors, and workers on low and fixed incomes, as well as wildfire victims. All of us are united in holding PG&E accountable, and it has to happen today. So, while PG&E's issues are very, very well documented, we are here today to bring attention to one of the really significant wrongdoings that we're consistently hearing from builders. As Laura mentioned, it's their failure to connect new homes to the electrical grid in a timely fashion. And in the midst of our housing crisis, this is just making things significantly worse. We need accountability. And frankly, while we do look to elected officials and we do look to people like the CPUC, it is the people. It is the coalitions that we all have together, because PG&E ultimately does work for us. And if they're not able to do their job, we need to get somebody else in a position that will.
When we look at the statistics provided by PG&E, the delays in housing, it can feel a little bit impersonal. And so I brought my baby here today to really help put more faces onto this. Every single home that is delayed represents a family waiting to live in that home. That is a family perhaps still on the street. Especially when we look at the needs and the delays around subsidized affordable housing, people are waiting desperately for those homes, and enough is enough. Delays mean hundreds of potential homes are lying dark, unoccupied, out of reach. As you can see, we have a new electrical system here. I'm going to hand it back to Corey.
And so we applaud some legislative efforts underway. Senator Nancy Skinner from the East Bay has introduced Senate Bill 1210, which is going to prioritize housing and require transparency around connection fees. And then the CPUC, just down the street, has kicked off a process to examine why this is such a big problem. But our work is far from over. We're going to need continued support from our legislators, from the CPUC, and again, from everybody here in order to actually fix this problem. So as we move forward, let's remember that the power that we're talking about lies in our collective action. And the Housing Action Coalition will continue to advocate for more homes at all levels of affordability. And with everybody's support, we can actually overcome these obstacles and build a more affordable California for everybody. Our collective agency is powerful, and we will get it done. I'd like to welcome to the stage a leader on this issue and a leader in housing in California, State Senator Scott Wiener.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I just want to say I feel so good standing up here with this beautiful coalition of two of my favorite groups of people around, our amazing housing advocates and the House of Labor. So thank you for coming together. And it's been such an honor to work with our labor coalition, with the carpenters, with the laborers, with the operating engineers, with all of the unions that have come together to first of all say, let's make it easier and faster to build the homes that we need in California so people have a place to live, so that we're creating good paying jobs. It's been such an honor to work together, but then to translate that work into all of the other things that we need to do to succeed in a state, including turning the damn lights on. And if you think about, if you sit down and say, let's make a list of the things that California needs in the coming years to succeed. We need a lot of new homes. We need a lot of new buildings. We need a lot more clean energy. We need to make sure that we are electrifying everything if we're going to get off of our addiction to fossil fuels. That means electrifying everything. And these are all things that are not optional. These are all essential for a vibrant and sustainable future for the residents of this state. And what is at the center of all of that? It's being able to actually provide the power, the clean power, to make that happen. And unfortunately, what we've seen is that because of choices that PG&E has made over the years to prioritize its obligation to Wall Street to provide profits instead of actually reinvesting in and modernizing the system, we are where we are today. And it continues to happen. It's really outrageous if you think about it. PG&E has some of the highest electric rate increases. And so it's getting more and more expensive, and at the same time, PG&E is saying, well, we know you built those 200 apartments for working class and low income people. We'll turn on the power in 9 months or a year. We know that you are starting a business that is going to employ a lot of people. We'll get to turning on the lights in 3 or 4 years. That's not just happening here. It's happening down south. It's happening in Bakersfield in the Central Valley. It's happening all over. Or we know that this building wants to put clean energy on, solar and energy storage. We'll get around to increasing your capacity to be able to do that in 3 or 4 years. I mean, that is happening every day in the Bay Area and the state of California, and that is what PG&E is doing. And enough of this BS. It is time to just turn on the lights. And this movement, this coalition is so important because I'll be honest that, and Mr. Chu, who we still miss in the legislature after he came back home, PG&E still has a lot of power in the California legislature. They've burned down entire cities, they've done all this stuff, and they still have power. And they still have power at the California Public Utilities Commission. And so last year, with the support of the folks behind me, we tried to move legislation to put a strict timeline, an exact timeline on PG&E to turn on the lights. And we were not able to move that bill forward. Fortunately, my colleague, Josh Becker, was able to pass a bill that at least told the CPUC to figure it out. It's not ideally what we wanted, but at least it's something, and it's happening. We need to hold the California Public Utilities Commission accountable for doing the right thing And we need to make sure that the CPUC isn't just doing what PG&E wants. So this movement has to continue. This is not a 1 month or a 1 year thing. This is a long-term coalition to build more housing, to turn the lights on, to electrify everything, and to have a better future for the state of California. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your leadership, Senator. Up next, we'd like to welcome San Francisco City Attorney David Chu.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. So I have to say, as I came this morning, I'm just blown away at how many folks are part of this movement. Let me start by asking, thank you for coming to the People's House. Do we have the House of Labor here today? Do we have housing advocates and community advocates here today? Do we have San Franciscans today? We are united, and I want to thank the media for covering this because San Francisco is sick and tired of being sick and tired about this situation. I am your city attorney, and as city attorney, my job is to ensure that we stand up for consumers and ratepayers in our city and our state, and we fight for accountability. 3 months ago, I was at a podium just like this. I joined this coalition at a similar event asking for accountability, as PG&E was proposing massive rate hikes while our residents and businesses have endured escalating utility bills and folks are struggling to get food on the table. And since I'm a lawyer, let me throw out a few facts and feel free to respond to those facts. In recent years, the Bay Area residents have suffered from high inflation. Our PG&E bills have skyrocketed 3 times that high rate of inflation. And that was before last month, when the CPUC gave PG&E a 13% rate increase, and next month when the CPUC is considering another 7% rate increase. What do you guys think about that? And let me just tell you what we learned last week when PG&E announced almost 25% profits in 2023. After its CEO had received the highest pay of any utility executive in the country in 2021. You know what that number was? $51 million. How do you guys feel about that? Now let me share a few other things with you. At the same time, this company's lack of accountability has continued to harm San Franciscans. This past year, for example, thousands of my neighbors in the southeast neighborhoods of the Bayview Hunters Point area experienced power outages that have endangered our health and safety. At the same time, thousands of residents in the northeast neighborhoods remained without power for days, including monolingual immigrant seniors in Chinatown, vulnerable tenants living on the top floors of Embarcadero high-rises. And you know what? In this past year, the power went out at our city's trauma center, Zuckerberg SF General. A PG&E contractor cut power to our city's 911 center. I want to thank all of you, but particularly our housing advocates and our labor allies who have stepped up to fight to address our housing and are here today to call out how this company's unwillingness to provide power has caused massive cost overruns for our city's housing projects, which, by the way, is delaying getting hundreds of homeless residents off of San Francisco streets and putting roofs over their heads. And I want to tell you that my city attorney's office, we've been litigating for too many years, too many of these matters. For example, after PG&E's unnecessary expensive redesigns and delays on major projects that have cost San Francisco taxpayers $28 million, we had to fight back, all the way up to the U.S. Court of Appeals, finally winning a court ruling last fall that PG&E cannot use its monopoly power to derail San Francisco's efforts to provide affordable public power. But let me just end with this. Our work is not done. Our office is going to be standing next to labor, standing next to housing advocates, and of course, standing next to San Franciscans. We need to fight at the courts. We need to fight at the CPUC. We need to fight in Sacramento until one day, Laura's baby and my 8-year-old son can rely on reliable power, green power, San Francisco power that is put to use and given to us by the workers you see here on this podium. Thank you so much. Let's get it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, City Attorney Chu. Up next, with the Northern California Carpenters Union, another leader in housing, Jay Bradshaw.
I am honored to be here today. I'm proud to serve as the executive officer for the NorCal Carpenters Union. I'm proud to stand on behalf of our organization shoulder to shoulder with everyone in this coalition. I want to talk about a few things, but I want to thank Laura for talking plain talk. You know, this coalition here, most folks in it, if not all of you, brought real change to the state of California with the leaders, particularly Scott Wiener, standing behind us. So I want to recognize our elected leaders, and I want to recognize our partners in the laborers union, the operating engineers, YIMBY, HAC, right? We changed this state. We brought true solutions to the overwhelming majority of those that live in our state and live, hopefully, live again in the city of San Francisco, where the working class has been priced out of the city of San Francisco in most cases. We brought real housing solutions that could lead to millions of new housing units being built for working class folks and for those that need it the most. Building housing at every level. It's driving our state into recession. It's driving our state into an economic crisis on the backs of the majority of those who live in our state and those who live in the city of San Francisco. With all those solutions, and we've talked about it a lot when you look at housing production, we would say to the electeds in Sacramento that we're going to do something about the crime scene on two levels. The crime scene and how those workers are treated in residential and pull all workers up. The crime of the lack of production of housing at every income level, which is tipping over our state. There's another crime going on. And I'm not one for slogans and bumper stickers, I will tell you that. But here's the deal, sometimes it just is what it is. Corporate greed of a private corporation that basically lives on a public subsidy with no accountability on the backs of every citizen that PG&E covers, every resident, I should say, a better way to say it, every San Franciscan in the instant case here paying ever-escalating rates. For what? For them to get in the way of every solution we've driven. They can stop those millions of housing units that we've achieved through legislation being built. They can tip that right over. Make no mistake, this is a war here. It's a war for our state. It's a war for the workers. It's war for those to bring housing to the unhoused, to lift up, to get the economy going again at every level. Without housing, there's no transportation solution. Without housing, there's no solution to folks going to higher education, right? There's no solution to transportation, childcare. All of it is linked to that. The only way we get our state going the right direction is by building housing. And now you have PG&E standing in the way. What we were able to do as a team the last 2 years broke the status quo, brought real solutions, did not lead from fear, but led from a commitment to do the right thing. I have no doubt that this organization here, this coalition, will get that done again. To PG&E, I will say, if I may, on behalf of the coalition and my brothers and sisters of labor here, if I may be so bold to say, we are coming for you and the allies that also benefit from your corporate greed on our backs. Are you with me on that? Speaking of a righteous fight and righteous fighters, it is my honor to introduce our mayor, London Breed, who not only got us through the pandemic, but at every turn has stepped up shoulder to shoulder with everyone gathered here today to fight for our city, to fight for workers, and to build housing at every level. And for that gets attacked. And we're here to say we are honored to have you here, London, and we have your back. Am I right? Yeah. So give it up for our mayor, a real fighter for our issues, London Breed.
Thank you, Jay. It is so great to be here with an extraordinary coalition of union leaders, of housing advocates, of environmentalists, of elected leaders, to send a strong message that we will not continue to allow PG&E to be the obstructionist it has been to ensuring that power is connected to the many projects that we have and we build, especially around housing in this city and in this state. And the sad reality is this isn't a new fight. I remember when I first became a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and we had to fight with PG&E to bring clean power SF to San Francisco. We knew that we had the infrastructure. We knew that it was not a hard thing to do, but in every level they fought us until finally we were able to persevere and deliver clean power SF to San Francisco, the single most important thing that we have done to combat climate change. This is not just about housing, transportation, it's about everything. And it's about being a leader to move our city and our state forward. And just to give you some perspective, there are currently 75 projects, including housing developments, that are being delayed because they cannot be connected to the grid because of PG&E. PG&E's new CEO came to my office, and the one thing that we talked about that I said at least you could do to show good faith, because I've heard the promises before. I've heard the promises of we're going to deliver this and we're going to deliver that. I said, okay, do me one solid. How about this particular project that we're dealing with in the Bayview Hunters Point community that's still waiting to be connected to the grid? Let's at least start with that. And that took longer than expected still. There were commitments made. And these delays are costing the city and county of San Francisco almost $35 million additional on top of what we're already paying to build housing and to do the work that we're trying to do. Can you imagine what we could do with $35 million? I certainly don't want to pay for cost delays to PG&E so they can continue to line the pockets of their shareholders and their CEO. This is criminal. This is neglect. This is dysfunctional. And the fact is, if they would be delivering on what they need to deliver on, we wouldn't even have to have this conversation. Enough is enough. Do the right thing. Stop raising the rates of the consumers. Stop taking the money from the least of us and the folks who can't afford it. Even their Universal Lifeline program has went up considerably for low-income residents who could barely afford to pay those bills in the first place. We got to call it out for everything that it has done to create the problematic destruction that continues. They have been promising, saying, yes, we're going to do better, saying, yes, we're going to deliver, saying, yes, that we're going to work with the city, we're going to work with our employees, we're not going to continue to do what we have to consumers, yet their actions have demonstrated something completely different. Well, I say to PG&E today, actions speak louder than words. And your actions have been problematic. Your actions have destroyed the trust that we once had. So show us by not continuing to raise rates. Show us by taking those various housing projects and making sure they're connected to the grid. Show us by dealing with the challenges around the wildfires and moving faster over mitigating the impacts to the places that are most vulnerable. Show us by your actions. Stop telling us what you're going to do. Stop talking about what you're going to do. Stop saying, I'm about this and I'm about this. Be about this. Be about that. Because that's part of the problem. So again, I want to thank all of the folks who are here. We got YIMBY, we got Housing Rights Coalition, we got the Northern California Carpenters, we got Local 261, the laborers, we got environmentalists, we got folks here who are united in one simple message to PG&E. We are about business. We want to see change. We want to see change on the state level, and we want to see that change trickle down to the local level. We will continue to call out every instance of injustice. And as I said, 75 projects that are being delayed because of PG&E. So let's talk about that. Let's make sure those projects are connected to the grid, and let's make sure that we're not charged the cost overruns that impact the delays that you're responsible for. Let's get going. Let's make magic happen, and let's continue to hold PG&E accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your continued leadership, Mayor Breed. Leadership from elected officials is so important on this issue, and I know we've been joined by Supervisor Mandelman from the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Thank you for joining us as well. Up next, I'd like to welcome a pro-housing leader on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Myrna Melgar.
Hi, everyone. I'm Myrna Melgar. I'm the supervisor for District 7 on the west side. Buenos días a todas mis hermanas y hermanos, sindicalistas, carpinteros, laboradores, electricistas. Aquí estamos. I want to say a couple things about this awful company, PG&E. So on Monday we had a hearing about the constant blackouts that have been happening in my district on the west side. There have been 80 these past 10 months that were planned, and 77 that were unplanned. And they were unplanned because their awful infrastructure that they haven't invested in for so many years just breaks down. And so we have in San Francisco a climate crisis and an affordable housing crisis, both. In California, we have both. And so some people will say, this is like the flavor of the messaging this month, that we don't have a housing crisis because we have empty housing units. And that's the same thing as saying, hey, it's raining and cold today, so we have no climate crisis. We have no climate change. There's no such thing as global warming. It's the same thing. It's denial of facts that are in front of us. And this company is in the way of progress in both. In the west side, we are slated to build thousands of units at, hopefully, with union labor, with a great PLA, at Stonestown, at Park Merced. We need, thank you. We need PG&E to step up. And if they don't step up, we will make them step up, because the House of Labor is powerful. Right. And we will go to Sacramento and make sure the CPUC does right by us, by our future generations, because we cannot afford to be in this housing crisis. We cannot afford the climate crisis. We need to make sure that for the next generation, we do the right thing. And we will be there every step of the way to make sure that they do. This company needs to either step up and make the commitments that we need or get out of the way. So thank you so much. Let's keep going. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you so much, Supervisor. You know, the Fair California Coalition is so broad and so powerful. And one of the organizations, and because the coalition is so broad that the mayor left off the operating engineers, which I know are here today. Thank you to the operating engineers for being part of this coalition. Nobody quite gets this problem like people who actually build affordable housing. So our last speaker here today is one of our great affordable housing builders here in San Francisco from Mission Housing, Sam Moss.
Thank you, Corey. Before I get started, I just want to say how proud I am to stand up here with our brothers and sisters from labor. Y'all are the ones that actually build things. You know, at a time when we need affordable housing most, PG&E made Mission Housing and our partners build 136 new units with generators because they wouldn't connect us to temporary power. At a time when we need affordable housing most, PG&E took almost 8 months to connect affordable dwelling units for low-income seniors and families that Mission Housing built with no public subsidy. So while people were on the streets, our units are standing empty. And, you know, that's unacceptable. And I just want to finish this all off by saying, for the love of God, PG&E, turn on the lights.
Turn on the lights! 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 Turn on the lights!
Thank you so much, everybody. Turn on the lights. Turn on the